Meeting of the Coralville City Council to order, October 22nd, 2019. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Foster.
Present.
Gross.
Here.
Gill.
Present.
Dodds.
Present.
Goodrich.
Here.
Okay, all council members are present, as is the mayor, the city clerk, city administrator, city attorney, and several city staff that's in the audience. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gill, second by Gross, I guess. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now is the time, item 4, for citizen comments. This is the time on the agenda for anybody who'd like to speak to us tonight about an item that's not already on the agenda. If you'd like to speak, please step to the podium and state your name and sign in, please. In 5 minutes.
So my name is Jacob Simmering. I wrote you last week and I received no response, except for you, Councilmember Goodrich. I recently was riding on First Avenue last Thursday and I almost died. A car passed me with about 12 inches to spare. The speed limit's 25 miles per hour. I was going 20 on my bike. They were going about 35, 40 miles an hour. If they had struck me, there's about a 90% chance I would have been killed. There is no safe place to ride on First Avenue. The sidewalks are unsafe. The master plan for bike infrastructure put out by the MPO and worked on by Sherry Proud indicates that the sidewalks on that road are unsafe and not indicated for riding. The road is unsafe. Despite having complete streets policy adopted in 2016, this city council and its engineer have failed to build a safe infrastructure, despite having legally obligated themselves to do so. This would not be a problem if it wasn't for the fact that the Iowa River Landing, Iowa River Power Trail was torn up 2 years ago for the benefit of Latitude. That trail has not been replaced. Every day when I ride, I turn on a headlight that is quite bright, as you can see. I put on a lamp on my helmet, which is also quite bright, as you can see. I carry a GoPro so that when I'm killed, my wife can figure out why, and a tail light, which is visible from about a mile away. None of this does anything to protect me. The only thing that can protect me is design of the infrastructure to make it safe, and this city has failed to do so. I wrote you last week, Councilwoman Goodrich responded. Her suggestion was to ride on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is statistically less safe than the roadway. With the number of curb cuts for commercial traffic and the number of cars that come flying in without looking, that driveway by Panera is probably the most dangerous 10 feet on my route every day. People don't look when they turn. On the sidewalk, you're invisible. You're moving 15, 20 miles an hour. No one expects you to be there, and you will be hit. There is no safe infrastructure, and I want to know the council's plan to rectify this situation. I want to know when the trail will be reopened. What is the plan for rectifying the design defects of First Avenue that I know I'm not the only one who shares? There's a letter to the editor I wrote to Little Village that has been shared 80 times in the last 24 hours describing the inadequacies of First Avenue in terms of safety for pedestrians and cyclists. And also, when will there be enforcement to deal with the rampant speeding, aggressive driving, and red light running on First Avenue? Those are my questions.
Okay. Thank you. I'll briefly respond, and then we can follow up in greater detail. It wasn't just the Latitude project that caused the previous.
There's the grading for Second Avenue.
Right.
Yes.
That and the overall master plan of the river river master plan along there. So that's a work in progress, and I'll ask Kelly in a minute to ask a timetable on getting that repaired. Speeding is a problem. I get a lot of comments from folks that think it ought to be 35 miles an hour, and I say, no, there's too many driveways, pedestrians, bicyclists, and so it's.
So I would ask, I agree that speeding is a problem. The roads, if you look at that road, if I took away the sign and said, how fast do you think you should go, how fast would you say?
Well,
you have 12-foot travel lanes.
Yeah.
You have clear zones. None of these are required, and in fact, they're all counterindicated in urban environments by the federal government and by the National Association of City Transportation Officials. These are all considered to be bad designs for urban roadways.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you. You're making a statement that you completely know nothing about. MPOJC does all the studies. We do the studies. We have engineers, and that road is designed right. Now, don't be talking about our First Avenue. First Avenue is.
Have you ridden on First
Avenue? First
Avenue,
Avenue is for highway and road traffic. It's an arterial.
Have you walked along it? Have you
I have
traveled
walked
along
along it. Now, I'm not going to get into in an argument with you. If
I
you
would
want,
agree
if you
with
want,
you.
we will refer you to the people that handle this project, and we will go through it. But MPOJC does studies upon studies about transit, traffic, bicycles.
And so are you saying
and
that
our
First Avenue is
roadways,
not
our
safe for
our
bicycles?
roadways, we're proud of our roadways.
Are you saying it's not safe for bicycles?
So if you have questions, don't start with specific questions about it. Those roadways are fine. We don't have a trail. The trail will be going in when? Another 2 or 3 years?
So
But
in
it's
the
going
next
in.
2 to 3 years?
No, it's quicker than that. So-
Okay, but
There was a
again-
trail
I mean, that's
there.
the
But
good
again,
news, yeah.
that arterial is one of the major thoroughfares in this county. Now, if you're riding a bike, you have to take that into consideration.
So how do you respond to the fact the city has a complete street ordinance? That says you,
Say
in
that
2016, you
again. Say that again.
passed a
Pardon me?
complete
Say that
streets
again.
ordinance.
Say that again.
Then how do you justify having a complete streets ordinance? A complete streets ordinance says that all of your roadways should support multimodal transport, including pedestrians, cyclists, and cars.
Well, let's not get into debate here because.
Yeah,
but,
we're not getting
um,
into the weeds on this.
But I think that the component there is the trail that is going to be reinstalled. And now it's your turn, Kelly, to talk about the timetable for getting that.
Yeah, the trail was not just taken apart because of the Latitude project.
Right.
The Iowa Riverfront project, the flood mitigation project was also just completed 2 weeks ago, which was exactly where the trail was, and that had to be torn out so that the flood work can be completed. And by Thanksgiving, that section will be put back in as asphalt through that section.
By Thanksgiving.
Yes.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So if we have a trail there, First Avenue is irrelevant. It's just the absence of the trail. And the 2-year timeline for the absence of the trail is really, given the importance of that trail in the infrastructure for moving back and forth from Iowa River Landing safely, given that First Avenue is a major arterial, that trail was critical. And its removal for 2 years is really hard.
Well, we would agree with you on that, but the flood project and the grading of that area did require an extended period of time for that to be done.
And this was the absolute shortest period of time that it could have been done.
Yeah, I do believe that.
Okay?
And the good news is, so let's end on a positive note, is that further to the south, we have received funding to extend a new
The
constructed
Crandick,
bridge
yes, that's
over
gonna be
Clear
exciting.
Creek. So
Yes. So you have the supports there. That's going to be amazing.
yeah, so there's hope on the way. Please bear with us. Feel free to work with the staff. I understand it's an arterial street and it's just not a good mix with bicyclists and it's been a bad
there's just
situation,
no-
but there's hope on
This
the way.
community plan from a few years ago identified it as a candidate for bike lanes. And those weren't put in during the reconstruction.
Right.
And
I think
mean,
because of the trail along there.
But the trail at the time didn't exist because it was taken out.
Right.
It's sort of the worst of everything.
Yeah.
And Jake, if I can just say, I'm just pulling up your email, and I apologize, it was unread, so I did not even see your message. You were sandwiched between John Delaney and somebody else asking for money, so I'm sorry about that, but I will read through that, and I will definitely send you some comments and some thoughts.
All right, thank you.
And I'll just add that I'm on the Parks and Rec Commission, and we discussed your letter last night within, Alex Taylor is in the audience, and he's on that commission as well, and we've discussed that, and Sherry Proud was gonna write back to you and talk to you
Yes.
about the timeline.
And Sherry
that
does a
we're
great
planning on
job.
that coming, so.
I mean, you do have an amazing set of urban single track and recreational trails. It's really, there's critical transport links like that Iowa River Landing, Iowa River Power that are missing to get to those places safely, and to get
Believe
around
me,
safely.
We want that trail open as much as you do, so.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
I'm
Jacob.
just going to sign in.
It's nice to put a face to the email too, and I was in Kansas City last week and I got back in Washington DC this morning, so I'm a little behind on my email as well. Anyone else in the audience like to speak to us tonight about an item not on the agenda? Okay, seeing no one approaching, I will move on to the proclamation of this evening on United Nations Day, October 24th. It's my pleasure and honor to read this proclamation in the city of Coralville. Whereas the United Nations was founded in 1945, and the anniversary of the day on which the UN Charter came into force is observed each year on October 24th. And whereas the United States is a global multilateral organization comprised, did I say United States? United Nations, sorry, I'm tired. United Nations is a global multilateral organization comprised of 193 member states. And whereas the United Nations seeks to address and solve some of the world's most pressing challenges related to peace and security, human rights, eliminate change, sustainable development, food security, and humanitarian and health emergencies. And whereas in 2015, all 193 member states adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals, also referred to as global goals, to work towards a more just and sustainable future for all. And whereas a recent poll conducted by the Better World campaign in 2019 reveals that American support for the United Nations is at a 10-year high. And whereas the United Nations Association of the USA is a movement of the Americans who believe that our interests and values can best be advanced by supporting the life-saving work of the United Nations. And whereas the United Nations Association of the USA has more than 20,000 members across 200 chapters in the United States. And whereas the Johnson County chapter of the UNA-USA is committed to taking local action to support the global goals and the work of the United Nations. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Mayor John A. Lundell, do hereby declare October 24th, 2019 as United Nations Day in Coralville. Signed this 22nd day of October 2019 by the mayor. I would like to invite Brita Loftus to come up and receive this, and please say a few words and introduce your guest that's with you, or your guests, plural. Why don't you say your comments and I'll jump around after that.
Hi, my name is Britta Loftus. I'm a graduate of the UI College of Law and also the United Nations University for Peace in Costa Rica. I'm one of the board members of our local chapter of the United Nations Association, so it's for the Johnson County, and there's also a state organization, the Iowa United Nations Association. I'm here tonight along with Jim Olson, who is the president of our local chapter. The United Nations Association is a volunteer, nonpartisan membership organization. Our mission is to educate residents of Johnson County about the work of the United Nations and how it impacts their lives. We accomplish these goals largely through public programs. For example, in the spring, we hosted the Night of 1,000 dinners, where we recognized 3 organizations working locally to support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Just last week, we co-hosted the Iowa City Foreign Relations Council lunch, and the head of the United Nations Association of our state chapter, Deborah Delat, spoke on the topic of the United Nations and human rights. This December, we'll have an event honoring the 30th anniversary of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, and in the spring, we'll again have our annual Night of 1,000 dinners. We invite all members of Coralville and Johnson County to join our membership, attend our public events, and recognize United Nations Day this Thursday. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Jim, were you going to say anything? Okay. We'll look at a quick picture then.
Mayor, I just had a little deja vu remembering that when I was in high school, I attended the United Nations Forum in New York. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
long time ago.
Headquarters and everything?
Oh, absolutely, it was the summer.
That means it's Claire and Zoe, my 6-year-old daughter.
Oh, great. I'm glad we could join you.
We're going to vote on this.
Thank
Great.
you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you for
I
coming.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Good
Yep.
luck.
Jim? Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And you're welcome to stay for as long as you'd like. Yep. Okay, let's move on to item number 6, which is 1246 12th Avenue, which is the Genesis Church property, the Big White House is known as. This is the third and final consideration of an ordinance for an expansion. They want to add a second structure on their property for social events and so forth. Don, the third reading, please.
Ordinance number 2019-1013, an ordinance amending the Coralville zoning ordinance, the same being ordinance number 664 as previously amended, rezoning certain property located within the corporate limits of the city of Coralville, Johnson County, Iowa, and generally known as 1246 12th Avenue from R1 Single Family Residential District to RPUD 2 Residential Plan Unit Development 2 District, introduced for adoption, final and formal consideration. Councilmember Foster, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Gill. Discussion?
Yeah, just remind folks that from our previous discussion in the development agreement will be the two items that we discussed. One would be an overall occupancy for the building that would reflect that the whole building couldn't be used at one time if, based on the numbers. And then the second item would be the turn lane if ever needed on 12th Avenue.
Great. Thank you. Any other discussion by the council? Roll call?
Gross. Gill.
Aye.
Dodds. Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
The ordinance passes its third and final consideration, all ayes. Now a resolution approving the PUD site plan for this project.
Resolution approving the PUD-B site plan for 1246 12th Avenue, Coralville, Iowa, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gross, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Goodrich. Discussion? Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye. Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item number 7, Highway 6 and I-80 Water Main Relocation Project. I'd entertain a motion to approve pay estimate and number 2 and final to Carter and Associates for this project in the amount of $3,054.75. Moved by
So move.
Gill, seconded by Gross. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes, all ayes. Now, Don, we'll have a resolution accepting the project as complete.
Resolution accepting the Highway 6 and I-80 Water Main Relocation Project as completed, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Gill, seconded by.
Seconded by Dodds. Discussion? Roll call.
Dodds.
Aye.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross. Gill.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item number 8 is the Oak Hill Cemetery Sign Replacement Project. This is Sherry, our Parks and Rec Director Sherry Proud would tell us more about the replacement of the cemetery sign.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Quotes were taken on Tuesday, October 15th for a new sign at Oak Hill Cemetery. We received 3 quotes on that day. The replacement of the Oak Hill Cemetery sign is necessary for 2 reasons. One, we have an updated sign in our master plan when we completed the Russell Slade and Cemetery master plan a year and a half ago. And so this will get us started on that master plan, as well as the Veterans Memorial. We are hoping to break ground any day now there on that project, which will be located right by where the current sign is. So we have the 3 quotes. The estimate was $55,743. The lowest quote was from Country Landscapes, and that was for $65,972.25. which is about 8.5% above the consultant estimate. But considering the timing and with the Veterans Memorial starting, staff felt we could still make that budget number work.
Okay. Okay, Don, let's consider the resolution.
Resolution accepting quotation and awarding a contract for the Oak Hill Cemetery sign replacement, introduced for adoption by Councilmember Dodd, seconded by.
Second.
Seconded by Foster. Discussion? I don't need the numbers, but who were the other 2 contractors? Just
CR Signs and Lighting and Tricon Construction Group.
okay. Just curious who else bidding.
So we will have just a little bit of time, so the public knows that the existing sign will come down and the new sign will still be under construction. So we're looking at putting up a temporary project sign for the Veterans Memorial and include information about the Oak Hill Cemetery sign on there as well.
Sounds good. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross. Gill.
Aye.
Dodds.
Resolution passes all ayes. Item number 9 is the Magellan Detention Basin. This is a resolution that approves an engineering services agreement with H.R. Green for the construction of a dry bottom detention basin on the Magellan Pipelines property north of the Crandic Railroad line to provide flood relief through the Biscuit Creek watershed. Only Phase 1 is being authorized at this time, which includes preliminary investigation, stormwater modeling, and public involvement. Don?
Resolution approving an engineering services agreement with H.R. Green Inc. for the Magellan Detention Basin and authorizing only Phase 1 services at this time. Introduced for adoption by Councilmember Goodrich, seconded by.
Second by Gross. Discussion. Anything you want to say?
This is a project that ultimately would be covered if we get beyond this stage by the Clear Creek Watershed grant program. And so that's what would ultimately pay for this. And this is a series of multiple detention and stream bank improvements that we would like to do through that area. And we'll have more projects coming, and that would help that whole neighborhood north of Coralville Central up to Clear Creek Trail, up to the Crandic tracks, railroad tracks. And so this would help that and fit in with the neighborhood improvements that we're trying to do for housing projects along Biscuit Creek as well. So there's multiple beneficiaries of this project.
Sounds good. Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross. Gill.
Aye.
Dodds. Goodrich.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, all ayes. Item number 10 is the Coral Ridge Avenue Wall Number 4 repair. This is a resolution to approve an agreement with H.R. Green for work on the old box culvert under Wall Number 4, major wall and sidewalk repairs, and 6 site visits to monitor movement over the last year.
Resolution approving an agreement with H.R. Green Inc. for the Coral Ridge Avenue Wall Number 4 repair. Introduced for adoption by Councilmember Foster, seconded by.
Second.
Second by Gill. Discussion? Can somebody, I don't know what this is. I don't even know where it's at. So.
This is on Coral Avenue, and this was a project that there was a repair that needed to be made after the project, and this is the engineer is paying for the repair. So the city, but we still have to have the agreement for them to do it in. You know, they want to get a release
This is the one that's been going
eventually.
on for several years.
Yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Gross.
Aye.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds. Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Resolutions approved, all ayes. Now I'd consider a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented or amended.
Move to approve the consent calendar, items A through CC inclusive.
Moved by Gill, seconded by Dodds. Any discussion? Roll call.
Gill.
Aye.
Dodds. Goodrich.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gross.
Aye.
Consent calendar is approved, all ayes. City Administrator report.
Yes, a couple of things. First, I'd just like to remind people that on November 5th will be the first time that we'll have joint voting for school district and city elections. And so just remind people that that's coming up. And because it is a joint election, they will not be consolidated. So it'll be in your normal neighborhood area will be the election. So just encourage people, if you don't vote early, that you will be going to your regular polling place for the November 5th election. And then just would like to ask Scott Larson to briefly give us an update on 9th and 7th Street and what's happening there, because there'll be some changes coming up later this week that we want everybody to know about.
Right, we actually have a pretty big week ahead, as Kelly mentioned, on both East 9th Street and East 7th Street. The first milestone we're trying to reach is to reopen East 7th Street between First Avenue and Quarry Road for the first time in over 2 years. We think right now that's going to happen on Thursday. We don't know yet if it's going to be Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon, but we expect to be able to kind of pin that down more tomorrow afternoon. So probably late tomorrow afternoon, you'll probably see an update or a press release from me outlining exactly when that road's going to open. So the reason that's important is because when we started our East 9th Street project last week, obviously there were some significant traffic impacts within the Iowa River Landing. And so by opening up East 7th Street, that provides a secondary access that we just haven't had for 2 years or more. So the plan is to open East 7th Street first, and then there might be a day or two pause before we kind of hit the East 9th Street project and impact traffic there again. So we're going to be encouraging the folks that live and work in the Iowa River Landing to take a look at East 7th Street once it's open and consider that as a primary way to get in and out. So we'll be watching very closely as usual. On the East 9th Street project, the contractor just continues to work on concrete and brick paver removal to build those new center medians that will really enhance that corridor. And so far, that's going okay. Any questions?
So the road won't be closed, but it'll be one lane at certain times?
So, right, on
night?
East 9th Street, we'll have the same configuration that we have right now from Poncetti Way down the hill to Quarry Road, where it's just going to be one lane each direction running head-to-head while the contractor works on the south half of the road. But it's that piece between First Avenue and Poncetti Way where we're going to have to take westbound from 2 lanes down to 1. And that's where we really get into trouble because we mix the left turning traffic with the right turning traffic, and it just backs things up. So that's why we're trying to time it so that the next time we do that, we'll have East 7th Street. We can't expect everybody that visits there to know that East 7th Street's the other way out. So that's why we're going to make a special effort to encourage employees, employers, and residents to consider that if they can.
What do you anticipate the duration of that piece of the project to be?
If you look at the schedule, it's about 2 weeks, but we don't think it's going to take that.
Good.
So, and we're actually working possibly on an option where we could improve things at the end of each workday. I'm hoping to have more information on that when we get our press release out, so stay tuned. But that will be the focus.
Good.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Scott? Anything else you need to tell us about around the city?
Actually, yeah, we can tell them. Had to look over at Street Superintendent Eric Fisher. University Parkway intersection opened today. So that'd be the east leg of Coleridge Avenue and University Parkway. I think it was a couple months ago we opened up the Medical Classification Center's driveway on the west side of that, but we haven't had University Parkway open to the east for well over a year. So that kind of opened quietly this afternoon. So we have another intersection.
Because I was coming back from the airport today, I'm going to ask, for Evergreen Road between
Kansas and Covered Bridge.
Yeah, the connection
Boulevard.
before I start using that
Yeah.
new interchange, yeah.
It's
It
not
was-
straight through yet.
It was supposed to have been open last week, but it didn't,
Yeah.
it didn't get accomplished, so,
Yeah, I could see that.
yeah. So I don't know, the last time I talked to North Liberty, since it's their project,
their
they had hoped that very shortly it'll get completed and opened.
And I believe the DOT has some overnight closures this week to remove the old
Yeah.
bridge. over-
Monday through Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's right. To remove the old Forever Green Road bridge over 380, so
Good.
getting there.
Yep.
It's a good reminder to people going through the I-380 interchange to drive carefully and drive safely. And it's construction, and it's a major, major national intersection.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Scott?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Mayor's report, I don't have much. I'll just briefly say what I was doing yesterday in Washington, D.C. I was asked, it was back in August, I think it was, when I was first contacted by the National League of Cities if I'd be willing to serve on a special task force aimed at informing the 2020 presidential election, U.S. presidential election, all the candidates, both bipartisan, all the Democrats and any of the current president and any of his challengers, to inform them on issues that are important and critical to cities of all sizes. And this is something they did 4 years ago, and it seemed to be successful in the kind of underscoring some of the municipal issues amongst the candidates. So we had our first in-person meeting yesterday in Washington, D.C. It's about roughly 30 members. I think there was about 20 that could have made it yesterday, and it's exciting because it's all sizes. I'm actually, obviously, being from the city of Coralville, one of the smallest. I think I am actually the second smallest city represented. The one that's smaller than I am is actually a suburb of the DC metro area. So they're considered, in my mind, they're part of a larger metro area. So I feel like I'm representing the communities closer to our size. And that's so important, I think, because there are a lot more cities of our size in this nation than there are the cities of Miami and Los Angeles, which are the two cities whose mayors are chairing this task force that I'm on. So I feel like I'm hope to serve an important role, and will first and foremost always represent Coralville's interest, and next the state of Iowa's, and then after that the communities of our size. And it's very much a bipartisan group, and that came out in our long and lengthy discussion all day yesterday. But it was really good. It's why I love working in local government. If you want to impact citizens of the United States, get involved in local government, because who provides fire, police, parks, library, recreation, garbage, water, sewer? I mean, go on and on. It's the local governments, and so that's what I love, to be able to help with people's issues and problems. But we can't do it by ourselves, especially communities of our size. We need that I-80 First Avenue interchange reconstructed, and there's no way for a project of that size we could afford it. So we need to work with our federal partners to get that done, and that's what the purpose of this committee is. So I will do my best. We'll have one more in-person meeting, and that's during the regular National League of Cities meetings next month, which is in San Antonio. And then after that, we're on our own to start making contacts. So I'll keep you informed. I think that's it from me. City Attorney's report.
I have nothing, Kevin.
Okay. Committee and council members report. Tom, you haven't started lately. You want to start?
Yes, along those lines, I think it's very important that people get out and vote. I mean, we've got local elections. I'm probably taking some of your thunders, Mitch, but everybody should be out voting, because the only way that you can change government or make government work for you is go out and vote. That's all my comment is. Thank you.
Very good. Jill?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to give a report on our Parks and Rec. We met last night, and we continued our discussion on writing policy for e-vehicles, like e-bikes and scooters and skateboards and one-wheels. So that's coming along well. And the other exciting thing is we're looked at architectural plans for archery range that's going to be out at Altmeyer's Farms. So they're hoping to get like footings put in now and things for that, and so a lot of it can be maybe built over the winter time in the inside and then be put together in the spring. So it's going to be kind of another nice feature out there.
Better and better.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good.
Lori?
I do have 3 items representing the Center for Performing Arts here in Coralville. The first one is that in the last month, we've secured grants and gifts totaling $23,500 to support this year's teen and children's theater programs. And this generous funding has been made possible by the Community Foundation of Johnson County, the Martin Family Foundation, the Grandfield family, and also an anonymous donor. And we've just completed a contract and are pleased to say that the world-famous Glenn Miller Orchestra will be returning to the CCPA in June 15th, 2020. And the third is rehearsals are underway for City Circle Theater Company's holiday performances of Annie, starring Camilla Koch as America's Favorite Little Redhead. And tickets are on sale now and going fast. There's also some shows this weekend, too. So there's a lot going on at the Center for Performing Arts. Just in reference to what you were mentioning, Mayor, about being involved in your community and so on, we had a communications audit here in our town, and just thank our staff for doing that and overseeing it, and just want to remind people that Coralville.org is the best place to get information. Also, everyone receives one of these, a Coralville Connection, in their mail, and there's also activity guide for all the parks activities and so on. So we have many ways of communicating to our residents, and they can find out about all of those on Coralville.org. Thanks.
Thank you. Megan?
I really don't have anything. The only thing that I would add to what Lori was saying is that in addition to all of those fantastic publications and our website, there are also several ways to connect with the city on social media. There are various Instagram accounts. I believe Parks and Rec has an Instagram account, Facebook, the police department, the fire department, Parks and Rec, and the city all have Facebook pages, Twitter accounts. So just, make sure that you are going and checking out all of the great info on social media as well. And that's all I have.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mitch, wrap it up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple just announcements from the library. Library board meeting, that is usually the first Wednesday of the month. I think this year it's November 6th. It's moved to November 13th. So if you want to come to the library board meeting. But within this weekend, as the government teacher here, Tom, thanks for your civic public relations announcement there. But early voting, for those interested in early voting for city council or school board, will be this Saturday at the Coralville Library. So you can early vote this Saturday at the Coralville Library from 10 a.m. to 2 o'clock this Saturday at the Coralville Library. And also this weekend at the Coralville Library is the 104 annual, I guess it wouldn't be 4 annual, but 104 book sales they have each year. So if you're interested in finding some good deals on books, that's this Friday and this Saturday. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Mitch. Anything, Mr. Clerk?
Nothing today.
Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn. So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Okay, moved by Gill, seconded by Goodrich. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.